Hello, I'd like to talk about the Steam refund policy, which is a little controversial. But, I mean, I see that it could potentially be problematic, but I think in general, consumers need their rights protected, and certainly, I think it's good that Steam is moving in that direction. Because, like, for example, for a while, I made a mistake with OpenGL. I was using Generate Bitmaps, GL Generate Bitmaps, which is not supported on all OpenGL 2.0 devices. I didn't know that. I had come from more of a DirectX console background. So the game would crash on people with, like, Intel 950 chipsets or something. And, I mean, that sucked. So, it was a huge mess, and then I tried fixing it, but then I forgot to. I got rid of the GL Generate Bitmaps, and then there was a horrible graphics bug where everything that previously had bitmaps was was still set up to use bitmaps, so then they would appear black or something like that. And, like, that sucked, right? That sucked for people who had that particular hardware. And then, I don't know, probably took us a month, and I bought the darn laptop. I found a laptop on eBay for like $100 with the graphics driver, or with that chipset. And, that's, and so eventually I think the game runs for everyone, basically. But, let's pretend I didn't do all that work. Let's pretend I was using an off-the-shelf engine and someone was trying to run it on something that it didn't really work well, and I couldn't go through all that trouble, or I just, moved on to other projects. It didn't make sense to go through all that trouble. I mean, part of it was that we're going to continue developing games on the platform, on our engine, so we wanted it to be stable, and part of it was a matter of pride, but like, fundamentally, not every developer can do that, or not every developer wants to do that, and, if users can, say, hey, this doesn't run on my machine, I'm just going to return it, then I think that's a good thing. That's something that users should be able to do, right? Because, I mean, I've spent, hours trying to get certain games to run. I mean, usually it's like old games that I'm trying to get to run that are a thorn in my side. But, I mean, presumably if you're running like a laptop or you don't have, reasonably up-to-date graphics hardware, I mean, it can still be a bother. Or, sometimes there's just these weird things like a bug with Steam or a bug with someone's operating system. There's some messed up files where, like, the game will just crash for them. And since, that's with their graphics drivers or operating system or something, I mean, there are a few times where I said, hey, the ball's out of my court, there's something wrong with your computer installation that, they're causing the graphics driver to crash, right? Like, you always want people like that to be able to get a refund, and that will always be the case. And certainly on consoles, one of the great things is you can guarantee pretty much that's not the case. Although someone swore that the audio didn't work on Retrograde, but I think there was something wrong with their setup or receiver because, I mean, it was very thoroughly tested, and Sony tests these things, and, everyone's PlayStation 3 works the same, right? Which is the advantage of console development from a developer's perspective, is you don't have to support this broad range of hardware. You can just support one device, make sure it works there, and then you can rest assured that it works everywhere else. But that's not the world we live in for PC development. I mean, even with SteamOS, that's not the way it works at all. And, on our SteamOS, I don't know if they ever fixed this, but there was a problem with anti-aliasing and the Intel integrated graphics driver, and I don't know, hopefully they fixed it because I reported it like a year ago or more, where basically, because we default anti-alias to being on, and so it appears as a black screen when launched from SteamOS, but not when launched from the Linux desktop. So, I don't know. That ball's totally out of my court, right? So I don't know if Steam... I hope Steam fixed it. I haven't really followed up on it. But, like, that's another example where, it's something that I can't fix. If that's your computer, I want you to be able to get a refund, and I don't want to, have to PayPal you the money, which I think is what I did with the PlayStation 3 guy who swore it didn't work, but I don't believe it. But, good customer service is important to me as, Infinitap Games, or I think that was 24 Karat Games, so, I did it anyway, and I don't think anyone has asked for a refund. Well, I think a couple of people on Kickstarter asked for a refund, and I think I tried to give it to them. I don't know. One thing, I think, like, someone didn't accept the PayPal or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's totally tangential to the point, the customer service, good customer service is important, and, making people feel like they get their money's worth. And I think, the scary thing to me as a developer of somewhat experimental short form games is that the 2-hour time limit is the thing that worries me the most, because if you've played Neverending Nightmares, I would say average playthrough to one ending is between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Probably, like hour 59 minutes, right? I mean, you're able sorry. You're able to reach an ending soon. And that was deliberate, because I wanted to open up the game to multiple endings. But the thing is, a lot of people just reach an ending and said, okay, I'm done, why is your game so short? So now, potentially they can just say, okay, I finished your game, I didn't like it, it wasn't worth the money, give me a refund, after they've played through a large portion of our content, which, it's, I think they only play through 6 levels out of 9, so they're only playing through 2/3 of our content, basically, which was a mistake. But, I mean, so for Devastated Dreams, right, like, I don't want to do the branching endings, and I want to make sure one playthrough is at least 2 hours. I'm shooting for about 3, and I think we can probably get it around there, and to me, I think that's a good game length for the project, in terms of balancing, the quality of the experience with, the development budgets and everything, because, the games we're making are very content heavy, so, we can't just add levels like this, right, and we have to create new environments, new, enemies, new atmosphere, right, so it's, the cost, basically, the cost of the game linearly scales, more or less, with the number of levels we're creating, whereas that's not the case for a lot of games, right? Like, I don't know, I think I was reading something about the new End game by the MetaNet. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're brilliant people. But I think their game has like 1,000 levels or something, which is crazy. But, I mean, I think a lot of their work, was creating, these amazing type platforming mechanics, getting those perfect, and then just, using their, and creating cool internal tools, and then just using those to create a bunch of different configurations. Whereas, there's no way we could ever do 1,000 levels with Neverending Nightmares, because, it's not mechanics focused. And we have a few more mechanics in Devastated Dreams, which I think will make the game feel more interactive and get more player buy-in. But, again, since it's atmospheric, right, like, I've been playing Silent Hill Downpour, and the game, like, in terms of interesting content, seems really short, but they have these really long side quests, and, I mean, I think I've been doing the side quests because I'm following a walkthrough, and I feel like maybe there's something cool in the side quests, but I've done a lot of side quests, and, I mean, they're pretty bad, and I think they're actually a detriment to the game. And so, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe they just felt like padding out their game, or maybe, they felt like open world, with side quests was the right direction for the Silent Hill franchise, but I mean, I don't think more content makes games better. I mean, like Journey, for example, I don't want a longer Journey. I don't want a longer Gone Home, and so I mean that's sort of where I see, you know, those are the comparisons I like to make for Neverending Nightmares and Devastated Dreams. I mean, you know, we're not as good as Journey. Sorry, guys. We also had a much lower budget than Journey. I mean, realistically, so, I mean, I'm all about, you know, creating the best game we possibly can, you know, given our time and budget, and you know, that's always going to be on the shorter side, and that's scary for the Steam return policies, but, I mean, it's hard to say how things will play out. You know, maybe we'll get, like, 1% returns, and then, you know, I'm, you know, if those people really hated Neverending Nightmares, right, like, I feel bad taking their money. I mean, it certainly makes things a little more challenging, you know, for us if we're getting, like, 20% returns. And, you know, I don't know. So it's, but, you know, and other people have pointed out, people who are smarter than I have pointed out that, you know, maybe this will remove some of the risk of buying games, and people will, oh, I'll try this game and see if I like it. And then, you know, once they try the game, then, you know, maybe they won't want to return it after all. So maybe it will, you know, get people on the fence to take the plunge because they have that safety net. But, I mean, in general, right, like, the thing about working with Valve is they're constantly trying to improve their platform. So if, you know, they see a bunch of returns where people are returning games at 1 hour and 59 minutes, or, you know, finishing games and getting a lot of achievements and trading cards and stuff, and then returning the game, I'm sure they will, you know, adjust that. So I suspect they can, you know, tune that and maybe say, you know, it's an hour and a half, or base it on average play time. So if you're playing less than the average play time, which I think for Neverending Nightmares is about an hour and 20 minutes, hour 30 minutes, which is pretty good because I feel like we're getting a high percentage of people finishing the game. I wish I had, we don't have an achievement for just finishing the game. We have the 3 different ones, and you can get multiple ones, so we can't really see how many people are finishing the game, but next time I think we'll try and put in some sort of metric for that, or achievement. Well, I guess next time we'll probably do something more linear, you know, to make sure people experience the content and don't feel like they didn't get their money's worth. Because I can certainly understand, I mean, I don't play a lot of games to all the endings, because usually they're more or less the same, and so, and that's something we wanted to do differently with Neverending Nightmares, is create totally different endings and totally different content that leads up to that endings. But I mean, I can see where people might not realize that, hey, they're really neat. You know, you, as a developer, you can't say, hey, you really should do this, you know, please. So you know, lesson learned on my part, and you know, certainly, you know, I'm a bit scared if you know, for whatever reason, we're creating, you know, something like Journey where it's a really finely polished and a small amount of content, you know, I would probably consider padding it a little to put it over the 2-hour mark, which seems like a bad thing to say, but I mean, maybe I just worry too much. But yeah, I think overall the Steam return policy is a good thing, and things will work out. So anyway, thanks for watching.